everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so sorry. I lost track of time. I've been talking to Scott and I totally lost the timeline. Thank you for joining. We're very, very happy that you're here. And yeah, it's just really great to get to share this with you. Just a word, we're gonna talk for about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll have time for Q&A, and we'd love to hear any questions that you have. So we're recording this live, and we really appreciate. All right, Jake, you're going to be our fact checker. I heard about you might get to be here. So we're just really thrilled to have everybody here. So with no further ado. All right, welcome to the UCLA Anderson Drive Time podcast. My name is Dylan Stafford. I am your host today. I'm an assistant dean here at UCLA Anderson, and it's a Friday. It is Cesar Chavez Day, and we appreciate and remember Cesar Chavez and all he did to make the world a more socially just place to live. And it's a day off at work, and I didn't have it flagged on my calendar. So when I scheduled Scott, so I'm at home on my day off wearing a suit, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else because Scott is a unicorn, as I think all my guests are. So I wanted to start with a quick little speech about unicorns. So if you know anything about investments and venture capital and breakthrough companies, a unicorn is sometimes a nickname given to a billion dollar startup, and they're rare and they're few and far between. And my team, we have this ongoing argument. Dylan, you're always interviewing Olympic gold medalists and all these unicorns, and what about just regular student stories? But here's my thing. I think there's a little unicorn in each of us. That's what I think. That's my operating assumption. And I think you can do something like go to grad school and you can release your inner unicorn by hanging around other unicorns. So today's guest, Scott Matthews, is one of these guys. He's like one of these guys, like, how does he do all that? So he finished the program in 2/3 the time. He chopped a year off the program. He's going to tell you about that. He went from being a director. He basically had I don't need an MBA job already, but he turned that director role at Hygiena into the VP of Global Strategic Operations while he was doing the program at almost double speed. And as you get to know Scott, you're going to listen to him and think, yeah, that's one of those guys. Like if I ran a company, I would like give that guy a lot of money to tell me what to do to run my company better. Right.
Oh, that's my boss.
So, we have some people here attending who are newly admitted to UCLA Anderson. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This gentleman, Scott, is now part of your future alumni network. We have some family members here. We may, we won't put you on the spot yet, but we have built-in fact checkers. So if Scott and I start telling tall tales about how great Scott is, we have some lovely family members here. Well, actually, let's just say who's here. Jake, you wanna say hi?
Sure. So I'm the younger brother, so definitely a fact checker. Is my wife Charlotte.
Welcome.
We're here to support. So far, you're doing great. We agree he's a unicorn.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Jake. Charlotte, nice to meet you. Anybody else? Maybe. Do I see somebody else?
I see my grandma there. Wave.
Hi, is it Grandma Matthews or Mom's side?
That's Grandma Matthews.
Grandma Matthews.
But we don't have to put her on the spot.
You don't have to say anything, and I am honored. I have been doing this for about 5 years, and you are the very first and only grandmother who's ever graced us with your presence.
That's because she's the best.
That's because she's the best. So thank you so much for being here. Oh my goodness. All right. Anybody else I need to introduce, Scott?
I don't think so.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, let me just tell you about Scott. So Scott grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut. He went south for school, studied political science at Davidson College in North Carolina. If you've ever heard of a gentleman named Steph Curry, you might have heard of Davidson College, and we got a little story about that for later. He spent a year at the London School of Economics, came back from that, got into the student newspaper, made it profitable for the first time, and then went into private equity consulting, was in a really unique kind of bankruptcy shop. And I won't tell you all of this, but He found his way to Hygiena, where he is currently. Again, at the start of UCLA, he was a director. It's a company that's been going through exponential growth, 5x growth in a 4-year window. Really, one of those places that, you hope to get to when you are in our program, which, we have a program for people whose job is too good to quit, and they want an MBA, and they want an MBA from UCLA. So we're going to talk about really 3 things today. How did he get through so quickly? What did he do for his field study, which was to create the Young Managers Playbook with Brian Farrell, which is a passion project that he developed while he was in school. And just, what's it like to do an independent study versus the more traditional field study capstone. So that was the longest introduction ever. Scott, if you haven't fallen asleep with me talking to your family, telling all these stories, rambling on about unicorns, welcome, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm having too much fun waving with my little brother and my grandmother, who, isn't that awesome?
That is so awesome. That is so great. So I did a little thumbnail, but let's introduce people, right? I have over 900 students to choose from, plus 7,000 alumni just in FEMBA, not even counting the 41,000 total Anderson alumni. I don't get to talk to everybody. And this is the last thing. Scott is a staff recommends. Not only do we have Grandma Matthews here, which is incredible, but Viji Ochoa, whom many of you know on the team, actually brought Scott to my attention. So normally I have to wait 2 or 3 years to get a guest because they do something incredible in scheduling and it takes a while. But last December, Viji wrote to me and said, Dylan, you got to talk to Scott. He would be so great. He turbocharged through FEMBA with great career success. So, all right, back to you, Scott.
No, it's just what fun. Viji's awesome, by the way. And that's one of the things that is unique about Anderson and unique about doing this during COVID, right? Is, classes are fun. And I only had 2 quarters on campus. The last time I was on campus, I've been back since, but the last time I was on campus as a student was my finance exam in quarter 2.
Wow.
And it's horrible to say now. At the time, I gave a little, and everybody looked like, "Oh my goodness, you've got the bug," because that was March of 20.
Wow.
Go figure.
Because you began in the fall of.
Would have been the fall of 19.
Fall of 19.
It would have been the fall of 19. And but on Viji, there's such an amazing supporting cast of team, the professors and the administrators. And I obviously wanted to do something a little different and learn to be a better manager by going to Anderson. And I wanted to do this playbook idea, this independent study. And Viji was the one who helped me figure out how to do it. And she is just so cool because, first off, there's the Viji, how do I do this? You need to write this person and get this approval and a proposal and the red tape, but there's also, how you doing? You okay? Are you okay? I'm okay. We're getting through this. And that part that's the juice, right? The education is the product, but the relationships are the juice.
Well, that's so great because all of the staff and faculty, everyone became a life coach during COVID, from our living room couches on laptops, right? Like none of us have ever been through this before. And so I will make sure she gets that acknowledgement because she's, our team works hard and thank you for that, right? Because it matters. None of us are getting rich working for the state of California, but what we get to do in the world of touching people's lives is amazing. So, well, let's back up just super quick and give people the Connecticut to Davidson. Let's hear a little bit about Steph. I want to hear that story.
Yeah. So Steph Curry gave me my first beer in college. So I get to, Davidson got into my tractor beam when I was, like everyone, when I was a junior in high school. And I'm going all over the East Coast pretty much. Where am I going to go to school? Where am I going to go to school? And I told my parents I wanted to go to school in the South. And they said, no, no way. You're going to school at the best school you can go to. So I found a really great school in the South that no one had ever heard of. And then my really good acquaintance, Steph Curry, shows up and they go to the Elite Eight. And what would have been, a normal year of applications becomes an abnormal year of applications. And Davidson's like, it's a postcard of a college. It's really small. It's 2,000 kids. It is quintessentially Southeast, brick buildings, white columns. You're in North Carolina. And I fell in love with it. My dad said, you better work hard because this is not a slam dunk, basketball reference. And so we got in and it was terrific. And I'm there at my first fraternity party, and Steph was there. He had just been graduated. He had just been drafted by the Warriors, not the Knicks. We were so close. And I'm doing my thing and not dancing well. And he goes, here, you really need this. And I said, holy smokes, you're Steph Curry.
And those are the words he used?
In the retelling, yeah.
Yeah, that's epic.
Holy smokes are definitely the words I use too.
Holy banana bread.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. That's so cool.
I've met him once or twice. He is the nicest guy ever. He's like the Derek Jeter of basketball.
Oh, is he really?
Or Derek Jeter, I imagine, is the Steph Curry of baseball.
Okay. All right. I love it. I was watching him on one of the games this week, from San Francisco. He's in the stands. He's just so calm and chill. And I guess it was the Duke game. Yeah.
It was the Duke game last night, which was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That was fun. So Davidson and just real quick, what was it like going to the London? You went to LBS
LSE.
or LSE? Okay.
So I went to LSE. So Davidson, real tiny college. I said 2,000 kids. I studied political science. I grew up and my favorite TV show is The West Wing, like to the point where I can recite the show, the whole thing. And I was dead set on going to work on Capitol Hill. And I did a little work for Richard Blumenthal, who's now the senator from Connecticut, and interned and said, I really don't think I want to do politics.
Wow.
And so Davidson, as I said, small school, small town. I had lived in London once before and really wanted to go back. And so went to do a year at LSE, where there's a lot of really finance focused individuals, definitely an investment banking feeder school. And I did some consulting work at a real estate firm called CB Richard Ellis, now CBRE. Fell in love with consulting and found my way to Alvarez and Marsal when I graduated Davidson. And spent 6.5, 7 years there doing special situation and turnaround work. And it was really fun. It was not your standard BCG, McKinsey, let's go market size up a new product in a certain market. And it was not bankruptcy work either, which is what Alvarez and Marsal was known for. They managed the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy. It was special situations, or call it the yellow zone of small privately held companies, where you join the ship in distress. And sometimes it sinks. And sometimes, I like to say most of the time, we can steady the course. And it was always an acute situation, which was such a cool way to learn and get a lot of at-bats.
Now tell people, because you use that when we had our preparatory call. So, what is an at-bat and what's the benefit of getting a lot of them?
So when you're in the batter's box, you see pitches, and some of the pitches are meatballs over the middle. You put over the right field wall, and some of the pitches are in the dirt and you don't swing, but every pitch is a data point and an experience. And so the beauty of consulting out of undergrad or MBA is you see a lot of companies and you meet a lot of people and you get put into a lot of roles. And I would say consulting unto itself out of the undergrad is very similar to an MBA. Mm-hmm. But you don't have the training and the formality of the MBA. So the two together is a hell of a punch. But I wouldn't trade those experiences for the world. In my time, we managed cash flow for a furniture business. We implemented IT systems. We did mergers and integration work, supply chain work, and then you become a utility player. Mm-hmm. I love the utility player. Utility player you can put into any position on the field and they're going to do fine. They may not be like the best ever, but they're going to do fine. And it makes you really, I learned it makes you really valuable. And so now when we go to look for people at Hygiena, we love utility players. We love people who have an interesting background and lots of experiences.
Well, what I love as admissions dean, you know, the MBA benefits everybody, but it meets you where you are. If you're a starter, it'll help you get established. If you're established, it'll help you bump up. And everybody's at a different location on the, you know, everyone wants to be CEO of their own career, right? People want to be autonomous and capable and able to make their life count and make their fingerprint last. So I don't know what the percentage is. I'm going to make up a number. It's 18% every year of our class. I think, you know, these people really don't need an MBA. They could literally do without, and you were in that category. And I love when people who really don't need an MBA, they can already walk the walk and talk the talk, and they could literally do just fine without it when they choose. Because it really is, then it's like totally an arm's length transaction. I choose to make this 6-figure, 20-hour a week, 2.5 year, or 2 years in your case, investment in myself. What they bring to the student body is so net positive. Everybody contributes. Everyone contributes. There's no such thing as a dumb question. But when you get someone with that many at-bats in the learning community, and the professor throws out like a real-time case question, you know, it's not theoretical, because you can go back to, you know, actually, I've seen a situation like that, and you can add to that. And so I just love that. But tell me, like, so how did the transition go? You know, how'd you get to California? How did you get to Hygiena, and how did it go after this really great on-ramp to everything you want to know about business?
Yeah, well, everything you want to know about business is a bottomless question, right? So that's not fair, but it's not even a good goal. But I don't think that I didn't need to go to business school. I made one of the things that we'll talk about, I'm sure. I feel like you used the word customize, which I think is perfect. I customized business school to answer a question or a fairly deep-rooted insecurity that I have, which is being a young manager. I joined Hygiena when I was 29. And the folks on my team, bar none, were older than me, like different age and stage. And so the coursework I took was a lot of managerial, org behavior, interpersonal communication. And I think it made me a better manager, obviously culminating with the Young Manager's Playbook. But UCLA for me was part of a risk I took. I lived in New York, I mentioned, for 7-ish years. Had an awesome time. I mean, if you're going to be single and in New York after undergrad, like it's so much fun. I did the consulting thing. I got tired of the travel. Okay. I learned about myself that I love to be on the team. I stopped enjoying the 3-month project, followed by the 6-week project, followed by the 2-month project in Kansas, Lincoln, Nebraska, and Jupiter, Florida. The biggest rush came when I worked myself into interim jobs. So I had a unique run in consulting because I did that a bunch, and that's fairly odd. I did some master planning for the world's largest industrial lubricant grease factory. I did that for 6 months. I did cash management for a furniture business for 6 months. We almost went bankrupt. We didn't at that time. And then with Hygiena, we did a brutally fast merger and integration just after this business was bought by a private equity fund called Warburg Pincus. We had 8 weeks to double the size of the business. Blind.
8 weeks. 8 weeks.
Blind, by the way, because of antitrust rules. So you had the buyer and the seller and the consultants who know nothing about the business sitting in the middle trying to make the puzzle pieces fit together.
Wow.
And the buyer and the seller can't talk until day one because of antitrust rules.
Okay.
It was so fascinating and crazy. And I won't tell you how many times we were up all night. But But then they asked me personally to stay on for 2 weeks to work with the customer service team because I knew the data frontward and backward. And on day one, it was like the blindfold comes off and all of a sudden they see. So I had some experience. And then they asked me to stay for another, 2 weeks became 10 months.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of the end of consulting for me because I loved this team so much. And the product is really cool. And I can talk about Hygiena and what we manufacture here.
Well, tell them like swabs, right?
Swabs.
Somebody's got to make them.
50 million of them a year.
50 mil. Wait, just let's slow down. Let that sink in. 50 million swabs, like the little things, like the things we've all been using.
Oh, please tell me I have one in my office. I do. A swab, a little device. You use it on a surface to test for contaminants, largely in the food space, sometimes in the hospital space. We sell them all over the world. It's this amazing business. And I fell in love with the team. So great business, great team. I went back to consulting for a little bit, but it was never the same. I stayed in touch. They kept calling and I kept saying no. And eventually I said, why am I saying no? And so back to the story about UCLA though, I came out to LA pretty cold turkey. I didn't really know anybody besides the family that ran the business. And they've been terrific, but again, they're all older.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to meet some people my age, maybe find a girlfriend. I did. Good. So UCLA was important to me in that equation because it was the network. So for me, it was, how do I be a better manager? Because I have no idea what I'm doing on day one. And two, I got to make some friends. And the friends I made in the program, even though most of it was remote, they're such great folks.
Well, okay, I totally want to hear about friends. So let's not lose that, but let people know how big your team was at Hygiena and where they were located.
Okay. When I started, I co-led our operations team. I worked for our COO and I was his right-hand guy. And the way we divided it up, and we've tried to replicate this, is my partner here at the office. He is a hardcore manufacturing guy. Came up through the quality ranks and warehouse production, can tell you everything there is to know about ISO certifications, ISO 9001, ISO 13485, ISO 27000. I don't know this stuff. They don't teach that in consulting, but I learned supply chains and I learned some of the financial measures and levers that you can pull, how to integrate businesses. And I didn't mind the travel, not as much as I used to do, but not as much. So I took over our international business. And so, gosh, I think it was when I started, it was 4 departments and we had teams in London, Sevilla, Toronto, and Mexico City. And since then, we've added Berlin, Amsterdam, Shanghai, and Singapore, and we're opening a space in Brazil. And so we've got plant managers, and my job is to keep everything standard and make sure that we're growing the way we want to grow. And we don't drive on the left-hand side of the road in the UK at Hygiena. We all drive on the same side of the road, and it helps our business scale.
So you told me it was about 70 human beings.
Yeah, it's about right.
Spread around the globe.
Now it's more, spread all over. It's a lot of early mornings for me when I'm here in California, because you just have to suck it up and get as many hours as you can crossing over, and trips to Europe 8-9 times a year. And it's fun. The world feels a lot smaller.
And I don't want to lose the friend thing, because I love the network of the actual MBA journey, right? We have a cohort, we set you up to become friends. You actually do become friends, but let's talk about the Young Manager's Playbook. And like, what was that? You said you had this deep-seated insecurity, like, here I am, I've worked my Kadoobies off till I'm 29. I got hired by a client, which is the typical consulting exit. If you're not going to be a partner,
Yep.
it's, it's a good exit because you're
Yep.
usually, it's a mutually appreciated kind of relationship.
Yep.
And then you walk into, oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. I've got people, and they're not spreadsheet people. There's like people. And that's a little frightening because
they're real human beings with lives.
Yeah, this isn't consulting and Jack Welch, who's in the bottom 10%, and those are the ones we're gonna move on to improve the business. This is like individuals with families and problems and stuff going on. And what was interesting about it is we were really in different ages and stages, especially when I got there. And it's not just like you've got 3 kids and a mortgage and you've got no kids and you're a free agent. It's like, they have different experiences, different outlooks. For the team in Berlin that we acquired last year, many of them lived through the Cold War. I wasn't born in 1989. How am I supposed to relate to that person? And it's such a fascinating dynamic. It's not a bad dynamic. But that was the intent of taking all those classes in interpersonal communication and org behavior and being a great manager, because I wanted to learn how to do it. What's the secret sauce? And I'm still looking for the secret sauce, by the way. But when it came time to do the capstone and finish the MBA, I'd done all my credits and I took a ton of classes over the summer and on Zoom, and all of a sudden you have no commute time to get from Westlake Village to Sunset Boulevard. So you may as well fill that time with content. And by the way, doing the FEMBA and taking classes, that's so cool. Because you're literally applying the thing from the day before, the evening before. You just go through the class, you're like, God, I can use that. That's pretty cool. So I took all the classes and did it pretty fast. I wasn't traveling, I had time. Everybody had time in 2020 and 2021. So instead of baking bread, I got my MBA. The Playbook idea. So I called Viji, I said, I'm out of sync. I want to finish. The options at UCLA are you can start a business through BCO, you can manage a stock portfolio through AMR. I wasn't particularly interested in those things. Or you can do a consulting project through Gap, and I'd done a few consulting projects.
Right.
And so I was just like, look, these are great ideas. And if you want me to do a consulting project, I'll do a consulting project, but value for time, it's not as good. But I have something I really want to do. And so she said, call Dean Frasius. And so I did. And he said, look, every year there's a couple of these independent studies, and sometimes we have to say no, but this is a really good idea. And I said, look, I'm finding myself in a unique position of managing these people. Most of them are older than me. I want to do it the right way. I want to go interview 40 people and see if I can come up with some common traits or a playbook, if you will. And I did that. And it was the most fulfilling thing that could have happened for me. And I'd love to figure out through UCLA how to turn it into a book. And that was part of the conversation when we originally met, is what's out there, who's out there that can help me continue this project. Because I think there's some interesting findings, mostly on empathy and skill versus will and imposter syndrome. It was really interesting.
All those managerial competencies that you focus on.
Like there's some value add here for people who are in business school, like my little brother. And
Jake, I heard you're going to it's a small school on the south side of Chicago. I heard you're over there.
Exactly.
You look like you're in the library right now. I went to the Chicago booth also. So hello.
Connections. There it is.
We're glad you're here.
So I did this, and Dean Fraser said, go for it. I found Jake can't talk, he's in the library. That's awesome. Not a virtual background.
They still have books at Chicago. That figures. We took all our books out of our library and turned it into our venture accelerator. Chicago will never get rid of books.
God, what are we talking about? So Dylan, I made the program what I wanted, what I wanted it to be to get something out of it. I found a professor who would work with me on it, in Brian Farrell, and rolled with it. And it was probably one of the most fun things I did at Anderson. The other really fun thing was when I impersonated a professor while giving a presentation, and that was fantastic.
Oh, tell me about that. What was the setting for that little moment?
The professor was Wessels. He teaches finance. And when he called on me to answer something, I did it back to him as him with the nervous tics. Okay, you have to make the Zoom classes fun, because let's be honest, it can be really boring. It's not the ideal medium. The section went nuts. And to get a reaction from the team on Zoom was particularly rewarding. Mostly, I can't believe you just did that. Except Wessels thought it was hilarious too. He said, "Did you do me?"
Oh, that's
so that was particularly fun.
And he rolled with it. He was good with it.
Oh yeah, I think I passed.
Yeah,
I didn't get the highest grade in finance, but
so
have fun with it.
You really do. So you doubled up on electives. You took advantage of the no commute, no travel reality of COVID.
Yeah.
And you got out of sync. You were so far ahead. You reached out to Viji, you reached out to Dean Fraser. You set this up. You found a faculty support person. You had 40 interviews about this conundrum of being younger than subject matter experts for whose output you are now accountable.
Yeah.
So you got done with FEMBA a year. You're supposed to be the class of 2022, but you graduated in 21. You've got a book basically in raw form. You'll have to take the time to put it together. I have no doubt you'll be able to do that. You took advantage of something that's very rarely done, which is an independent study for your field study. So I'm just kind of underlining all that, because we do have some new admits or maybe listen to this guy going, well, that's all good for him, but what are the nodes? What do you think? Like, for people who are either going to be in this program, watching this video in the future, or are actually just, we just admitted people 48 hours ago for round 2, as you kind of reflect, yeah, exactly. Thank you. As you reflect on all that, and even, this could be advice you give Jake, like, how does a person, because an MBA can be overwhelming, just flat out. Our job is to overstuff the calendar. Your job is to figure out what you want to spend your time on. And it's the best way to discern what you actually love is, do you go or not? Because you start the MBA, you think you're going to be all these things, but all of us have to do that balance of generalize and specialize. And the MBA really does force your hand, because you have to vote with your calendar and you can only be one place at a time. So, how do you coach people who are, you now mentor, who are starting this journey?
So I think a couple things. The unique thing I think that I did, and people come to business school very similar to the way they come to consulting. They don't really know what they want to do, and so they want to take some time and figure it out in a value add way. And that's business school, right? That's the juice. And so what I went to business school with a very specific question. Oh, my mom's trying to join. I'm admitting her. I went to business school with a really specific question in becoming a better manager. But a lot of people go to business school and they take the general classes, and then they go through the recruiting, the on-campus recruiting, and they get matched. But neither way is wrong. And that's so important. So the classes are the classes, and some will be fun and some will be boring. And that's kind of fact of life of school. But if you can do it with a specific question and a specific motive that you're trying to get out of it, I'm taking this class. It's 30 contact hours. It's not a lifetime. It goes by in a blink of an eye. Go in with the question, what am I trying to learn? There's a hypothesis. I'm digging for something. When I took patterns of problem solving, I'm digging for something. What was it? What's that kernel that I want to get out of it? And that makes the classes really interesting. It makes your questions and comments really interesting. And it's a lot more focused than going in with the general with the general outlook. I'm taking patterns of problem solving because it sounds interesting. It's kind of not a good enough reason to take a class, especially the electives. And so what are you trying to get out of it? It should be accretive. It should, make you grow as a business person. You're on mute, Dylan.
Thank you. I had to cough for a second. And the white space in these months before business school begins, I think is really precious real estate. And I really love to suggest to people, your MBA has begun. It does not start at the end of August. It started when you hit submit on your application, and it for sure starts when you pay your admission deposit. And, it's like, you don't have to be nice to us in admissions anymore. All that stuff you said in your essays, well, it got you admitted. Great. But double check that. Make sure that's actually your deepest, authentic voice. Because what I hear you saying, Scott, is pay attention to what you aim at.
Yep.
And it's fine to be open-minded in general. And there is a Darwinian reality check of everyone has 168 hours in the week. And they will be pulled, work once your time, your friends and family need your time, and you have to study and you have to carve out 15 to 25 hours a week to give your graduate experience what it requires. So you can't do everything. So pick your directionality is what I hear you saying. And I think that's beautiful. And don't aim at what you think somebody else wants you to, right? Like
you got to feel it in here. It's got to be, otherwise it won't be interesting. And it's, by the way, the last chapter, if you will, of the Young Manager's Playbook, because it doesn't stop with business school. It's having a clear definition of success, and revisiting that and measuring it. And when you stop, when you've achieved it, taking the risk to move on.
Oh my gosh. Okay. No. Now you got me so curious. So do you have a working definition, or like, what is success for you at this point? And maybe did that change during business school?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
It's new experiences.
Ooh.
The minute consulting for me started to feel rote, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go get the data. I'm going to do a pivot table. I'm going to explain to some people how the pivot table works. Like it's magic.
Really?
We're going to build some charts. We're going to do a deck. We're going to do a presentation to the board, and then I'm collecting my money and leaving. The minute it started to feel like a pattern, I was pretty much out of there.
So your working definition of success is new experiences.
New experiences. And so at Hygiena, I thought I was going to come in and we were going to, as I said, we were going to improve inventory turns, take the working capital down, integrate some businesses. What it became was, we're going to manage through a pandemic. We sell swabs in the 2 years when swabs actually became like gold. Really?
Yeah.
A swab? Come on. Like bet the house, that's never going to happen. And then I was telling you before, Dylan, we ship, today we shipped 25 pallets of freight from Camarillo to London to feed our business in Europe. And again, clockwork. We're going to figure out how to economize the freight, reduce the freight.
Do you manufacture here?
We do.
Isn't that amazing? Everybody thinks everything comes from China, and many things do, but not everything.
It comes from right here in North LA, Ventura County, actually.
Wait a minute. Let me just double check. So you're manufacturing not in the Rust Belt, but you manufacture and make a profit in High Tex, California, and you have a global market for your product share.
Can you believe it?
Isn't that, look at that.
Yeah. What are we doing wrong to not be in the Rust Belt? But you go in with a thought that you're going to do some things that you know how to do, and you end up doing something totally different. The thought on the planes is in March of 2020, they canceled all the passenger planes. And so we never missed a flight, thank goodness. But there, instead of there being a dozen flights to London every day, it went down to 2.
Wow.
And that was remarkable. And that was a challenge that I never thought we would face, and that I never expected or anticipated. And there's no training for that. That's just, you got to figure it out. It's sort of like the movie The Martian with Matt Damon, where everything goes wrong and he's got to figure out how to get home safe.
I love that movie. Yeah, he's growing potatoes and then it blows up, and yeah.
And you figure it out. And so long as I'm learning, I'll be here.
Well, I know we have a couple of folks. Anyone have a question? You can put it in the chat or you can come off mute. We can also do some fact checking from Jake, brother Jake, dialing in from the library. And we also welcome Mrs. Matthews. It's an honor to be speaking with your son. Thank you so much for joining. All true. Oh, we got it. We got a fact check verification from the library, no doubt. This is a primary first-hand verification.
He's got to be honest. He's only in the library because he knew he was going to be on the video, and there was a chance my mother would join. This is fantastic.
Wait a minute. Who's the older brother? Who's the younger brother? Let me guess.
I'm the mid kid. I'm the middle brother.
Oh, okay.
Older brother shockingly can't dial into couldn't get the link to work.
Oh, the ribbing never ceases. That's beautiful. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not sure if we have any questions, but I wanted to offer that. Anybody? Bueller?
I do the same thing on conference calls.
Well, I apologize for the late start. That was me having too much fun talking to Scott in the Zoom green room. But Scott, this part, here's my little friend. Toot, 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 toot. It's the little Bruin bear. So our mascot at UCLA is the Bruin. We are the Bruins. And, if you could give 3 bear hugs, and we're going to totally put you on the spot now. So I'd love to hear, a favorite faculty that is a first shout out, first bear hug. Second would be a friend. It could be a FEMBA friend or it could be a pre-existing friend, but somebody really who was no one, we love to say it takes a village to raise a child, obviously the African proverb, but it takes a village to raise an MBA, especially a working MBA. So a friend either in the program or from your outside life who helped you get through. And then this is going to be super tough because you got your grandmother and your brother and your mom, but a family member. So we could do maybe 3 shout out, acknowledgements. Just to, because it does. The other African proverb is, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. And if you want to go far, you go with a team. And this is a degree in management. This is a degree in leadership. This is a degree in dealing with complexity. This is fundamentally a degree in people, and you doubled down on people with your electives. So I love to communicate because we admit a lot of incredible high potentials who are at that end of the individual contributor chapter. And they're just about to step in to that next chapter of life of management. Yeah. And it's like so hard to let go of being the smartest subject matter expert and be comfortable with the shades of gray of management. So those are the 3 bear hugs. I'd love to. And you can.
All right. So faculty, John Ullman, who teaches managerial interpersonal communication. And if you haven't taken the class, and if you're one of the admit people who are going to start to take some classes, take the class. And he has this whole riff on skill and will, and it's really worth hearing because the thing you learn when you sort of cross that river from doing the work to managing the work is that what it took to get you here, to get across the river, it's not the same toolkit that you need to get to the next level. And so those fancy pivot tables really are quite useless when you're talking on Zoom all day. But you gotta want it and the motivation. And he says being your best self and really bringing focus to the conversation in the meeting. That was very impactful. Friend, my girlfriend Jess.
Aww.
I don't have to. She was amazing. this is a lot. The MBA program's a lot of time.
Right.
It's a lot of hours, and it's a lot of hours where you're sort of cooped up in the office, and you're getting through, and you're taking your notes, and that's a lot of hours not spent with family and loved ones. Family, I mentioned those at bats and the good pitches and the bad pitches. That's a bad pitch. I am taking that ball 4 straight to first base. I can't name one.
All right. Well, then let's double dip. Let's talk about the village that raised you. Yeah, let's do that.
So the village. So mom and dad. Duh. And that's, and the grandparents, and having role models and targets and places I want to get to. That really helps with that really helps keep things focused and targeted. And of course, my brothers who keep things fun, just like we're doing right now. If you're not having a good time, you're just not trying hard enough. And it makes the day go fast, I'll tell you that. And so if you're not enjoying what you're doing, and you're not being a little, at least, fun in especially in the MBA classes, because they do get a little stuffy at times. So you have to sometimes do the impersonation of your professor and just see what happens, because he can't come through the screen and choke you out. So you kind of get to take free shots. So the boys for keeping it fun.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that's just perfect.
Those are my bear hugs. I like that a lot.
Well, and you know who that idea came from? My younger brother. That was
really?
Yeah, he's kind of a media savvy, much more media savvy than me personally. He said, Dylan, maybe you could do like bear hugs. And so we started that last summer, and I love it. And so I didn't tell you, it's kind of a surprise question. I
love that. That's awesome.
Well, to the Matthews clan, your grandson, your son, and your brother, and your brother-in-law, did something that maybe 3 or 4% of our students do, which is to graduate so quickly and to do an independent study in the process. So it's not everybody does it. And he did it. And he did it with grace and with high results in his career, and he grew his social life. And I don't know when Jess will see this, but you're choosing well, Jess. We like it. We'll give him the UCLA Anderson stamp of approval. So we'll start to wrap up here. We're kind of coming to the top of the hour. Let me take a real quick commercial break and just show you, for those of you who are new and are going to be wanting to hear some more stories like what we heard with Scott today. Next week, we have Tori Brodsky, who is in the program currently. She is an incredible entrepreneur. She's created a company called Drink Light. While she's in the program, she won our Wolfen Award for entrepreneurial excellence. She was featured in our Venture Accelerator. She's just quite the go-getter. Carol Ann Link, be an Olympian in your own life. She works here at UCLA. She actually works on the team that is preparing for the Olympics in 2028, both the Olympics and the Paralympics. She works with the infrastructure that UCLA can host people of all different abilities, physical abilities, that we can really be a global host, which is what we will be. We will be the Olympic Village in 2028, and we're already getting ready for that. Carol Ann Link is also incredibly dedicated to equity, diversity, and inclusion. She's been a resource and now a leader. She's the VP of EDI for our FEMBA Council. So she's 2 Fridays from now. Kyle Brower is our brand new FEMBA Council president. He's a double Bruin, really neat guy. And I don't have Corey and Sagar. Okay, anyway, we got some more people, but I don't have their pictures yet. So there's more good stuff coming. So just, if you like this, we record them all so you can watch them later, but it's also fun to get to listen live. So Scott, final words are yours. Anything I should have asked you that I forgot? Any last words of wisdom? Just anything at all?
I don't think so. It's Friday afternoon. It's time to go play some golf.
It is definitely time to play some golf. It is Friday afternoon. To the Matthews family, thank you so much for, it takes a village to create a Scott, and we're really grateful to have your creation be now part of our family here. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm just humbled. I've never had a grandma before. It's awesome. Thank you, Grandma
That's the
Matthews.
best. Thanks, Dylan, for doing this. This is fun.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate your time.